Turn that off. Okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. Okay, so here we are. We're almost all done. Before we take the oral portion of the final exam, I just wanted to share some final thoughts with you. So here we are at the end of our 8 weeks. I just want to talk about what I hope that you've learned in advanced Java programming this term. I want to talk about what I've learned. It's been an exciting experience for me. Talk about if I'm offered the opportunity to teach this course again, what I might do. And then also give you a preview of what else is out there in Java land. So, what I hope you've gotten out of this course, well, first of all, an appreciation of the Java language. It's a little different from maybe what you've seen before from C++. Maybe hopefully I had an opportunity with the cones and things like that to get a little deeper into it than you had in previous classes. Hope you've seen some good examples of object orientation. And through the work with the APIs and the standard libraries, really got a feeling of the power of objects and programming to the interface, all that good stuff. I hope you've learned that you can do a lot without pointers. Pointers can be very powerful, but as you know, they can be also very dangerous. And Java wants you to program at a little higher level than that, so not dealing with the pointers. And also, exceptions are part of life, but they can make your code safer and more explicit. I also hope you've learned how to work with new software. Right? You've seen a lot in this course, right? You've seen Maven, and then you saw GWT, like these tools, IntelliJ, are big, heavier things that maybe you've seen before. I think each one of you have had a learning curve on that. And also, again, how to navigate through an API, how to take someone else's code, whether it's the standard libraries from the original authors of Java, or stuff that I've written. And work with it and reuse it and twist it to your own means. But most importantly, I hope that you've learned how to solve problems. To take a look at admittedly not always complete or correct specification and derive code from it. Right, taking those assignments, asking the questions like you did on the Google Plus community, trying things out, figuring out, poking at your program, trying to break it. I hope you've also learned how to design stable and reusable code. Right? Think about it. Those classes that you wrote in the first week of class, you're still using here 8 weeks later for your GWT project, right? It's that same airline, that same flight class. 8 weeks, I suppose, isn't very long in the grand scheme of things, but really, it's that same code that you're using over and over again. Hope that you've learned how to describe your solution, your program, what you've done through documentation in words, whether it was the POA or the README or just the questions that you posed. I hope that you've been able to take sort of like these technical concepts, maybe these concepts that are in your head, and get them out on paper. As I think I saw some evidence of that you're learning the benefit of doing it right the first time, of writing those automated tests early on, of having a really clear understanding of what your code is doing, evolving it over time to refactor it to make it easier to work with. Because each project we added a little bit more, and we made some changes in places, things like date parsing that changed. And I hope that you've been able to appreciate some of the hard work that you did earlier in the course, then paid off later in the course. I think I've seen people on their own or through leveraging the expertise of others, being able to answer your own questions. And that's really important. And then fix problems when they occur and not let them build up over time. Certainly through refactoring your code and just making sure that you're still running those same test cases against your project 3 that you did your project 1. Get all that stuff out of the way. So what have I learned in this course? I was thinking about it, and I really like this format. Lecturing, was fun, so I meet up on my stage, trying to keep you guys awake for 3 hours. But I'm done with that. And for me, I really enjoyed coding with you and seeing your code up here, sharing it with everybody else. I found that to be, very enjoyable. I must admit. But there's still some things that are bouncing around in my head. Test-driven development, I think you guys did a pretty good job of it in the katas and stuff that we did here in class. But I don't have a good feeling how many of you really took advantage of it outside the class or will do more with it. I always feel there's more that we could do with that. And I don't know if I only focus on it a little bit. I try to give a lot of examples, but actually maybe she'll put them to you guys. I mean, did it sink in? Are you going to be like, oh, next time I have a Java core, I have to write some Java code, I'm going to do TDD, or it's like, yeah, that was nice, I passed the test, I'll go on to something else. What do you guys feel about TDD?
I want to use TDD, and I think if I make my own project from the ground up, I'll do that. But a lot of times, like I'm inheriting some other project that doesn't have all that infrastructure built into it. I'm not going to refactor that whole thing and add in the test suite. That's probably not going to happen. But I see the value in it, and I will try to do it in my own project.
Rob?
Have you ever considered using that as part of the assignment?
I have, and one of the things that I'm considering for next time is trying to figure out, is there a way that I can use like a code coverage tool or something like that to say, oh, okay, one of the things that I'll grade on is the percentage of code covered, and I think that would sort of force you into writing unit tests. It's really not something that you're supposed to do, but maybe for a classroom setting, it's appropriate. Actually, right now, the tools that I used to use are kind of broken on Java 8, so I need to find new tools for that. But yeah, it's something I'm considering for, something I'm considering for next term, yeah. I also wanted to ask your feedback about the in-class coding. I mean, so, I wrote a lot of code up here, you guys wrote a lot of code. What was that like? Sort of now we're at the end, what do you think about it? How could that be improved? What things we want to keep doing next time?
I thought it was good. I think as challenging as it might be, doing some more like critique of the code. I know like we show the code and kind of explain it, but there wasn't like a whole lot of like throwing rocks at it to like say, hey, this pattern may not be good, or you might try to approach it differently because I see these pitfalls that you're coming into.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Ask Warren to buy me some rocks that we can throw.
Yeah.
Oh, figuratively throw rocks. Okay. Anybody else?
I think you could show off some examples of dependency injection or reflection libraries. You don't get that much experience with those. You kind of threw them out there, but we didn't get to play with them.
Yeah, actually, I think I have that on the next slide. It's one of the things I'd like to do more of. Yeah. Yeah, dependency injection. Yeah, maybe there's.
Hard to show, but
Yeah. Blake?
Sometimes I had a hard time keeping up with what you were doing in the IDE. For example, a suggestion would be, okay, you're walking us through, okay, I want to create a method. So what I want to do, I'm going to type the method, and I'm going to enter or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I got lost in the keystrokes that you were using, especially in the screencast, about how you accomplished a lot of those automated tricks in the IDE. And I think it would be really great if you paused, asked us, okay, what do we want to do to get us primed and thinking about it? And then say, okay, here's what I was thinking. I'm pressing this to pull up this menu. Just a little bit of slowdown and walk us through kind of what you're thinking. Otherwise, I think you get into programming mode.
Yeah.
And you're thinking 5 steps ahead of what you're saying. We're just trying to catch up with what we're seeing on the display. So
Thank you.
prime our intellect for that before you go through.
Prime your intellect. I like that. That's a new album. Yeah.
I thought it would have been cool too if we would have like posted some of like the comments and stuff like on Git and like almost maybe not like a requirement, but for some of them do like code reviews and kind of go through other people's code. That way, because like do comment on like certain files, and that way like we can engage with other people about like why maybe they thought about doing something one way over another way.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea, and probably not too expensive to do. So sort of have it be like, a little follow-up homework or something like that, which is, either review some of my code that I put out there or some code that you guys put out there. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, just following that, I mean, in terms of like the homework, I know you probably can't do this just because in terms of resources, you're just one of them many. But I would have liked to have like feedback specifically regarding my programs and how I structured them, what you thought about that.
Yeah. There's a common theme is sort of a question of scale, and maybe there's some way to like crowdsource it where we all do it, and okay, we pair up and say, okay, you're gonna like find feedback on this guy, and then I can go and look at that and like assign a couple points to it or something. Yeah, thanks.
Else, I missed something. It would be, I guess, nice to go over things like coding smells.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I've heard of this a little bit, but going into this a little more deeply.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Yeah, I don't. There are like some software and craftsmanship stuff that I could probably prepare, like a more of a lecture, sort of me telling you things. But then also, yeah, if there's some way that we could again get that interactive feedback on, hey, I wrote some code. It's like, oh yeah, look, the way that you're handling this error is kind of difficult. Or yeah, that'd be good. Thanks, great, that's great suggestions. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, anyway, thank you. I always appreciate the feedback. And again, it sounds like once again the screencasts were effective. It's just super cheap for me to do. It's nice to have just record that stuff whatever year and a half ago now, and just to be able to reuse it, which then frees me up to do other stuff like that. And I have to admit that the Google Plus community seemed to work pretty well. I mean, there's more of you, and so there seemed to be a critical mass of people. Thank you to the people that were always very good about getting back and answering questions and sharing what they know. I think that really helps enhance everybody's learning. Also, I think the unique challenge this time was that there are so many of you, and so. But I think the course can scale. Actually, I'm really impressed that so many of you made it to the end. I'm really pleased. I think percentage-wise, maybe we lost. We went from I think maximum enrollment was 44 at one point at the very beginning of the term. And I think there were 35 of you now or something like that. So really, only lost 25% of you. That's pretty good. And having having a grader was just totally awesome. Holy mackerel! But even the stuff that I do, I found that really the key to scaling up the course and dealing with so many projects to grade and things like that was automation. And I don't know if you've been monitoring my GitHub repository, but what I've been doing sort of during the course is writing more and more tools just to automate things, because when there were 12 submissions, it wasn't bad, but now that I've got 33 submissions, just tools for automatically downloading the submissions and putting them onto disk so I can then grade them more easily. Or Dave enters all the grades in the detail, but I have my own grade books, just figuring out how to move stuff out of one system and into another. Just little things like that, these little utilities are saving me a lot of time, and it's the kind of thing that I can use going forward. So that means that I can focus more on monitoring the Google Plus community and providing feedback to people who have questions and things like that, and less time on just click to download and move over to this machine. That's just obnoxious. So next time, I want to do some different katas. I like the Pac-Man. I like some of the ones that we did earlier on, but I'm always trying to mix things up. I'd like to figure out how to get something more advanced like dependency injection and some of the advanced GWT in here. It's just, it's just so hard. You sort of probably with many courses, you get to week 7 is finally yeah, we understand it, and now it's time to go take a final exam. Maybe no final exam next time. Yeah, of course it's gonna be a final exam. They would kick me out of the university club. Rip the elbow patches off my jacket and everything. Take home final. That's lame, man. I don't know. What I'd also like to do though is introduce some Java 8 stuff. The language is out there and it's ready now, and honestly, I'm still sort of getting used to it and figuring out then what's the best way for me to teach it, sort of where to integrate it into the curriculum. There's some nice stuff there, and I think for me, having worked in Java so long, I can appreciate it, but presenting it in a way that sort of makes sense to you guys without seeming arbitrary or without necessarily having suffered through 15 years or close to 20 years of Java without those features. I don't know, how to make it so you guys appreciate that. Okay, so that's what's next for the class. What's next for Java? There is so much other stuff out there. And really just what we've seen are, in many respects, the fundamentals. I call it advanced because we talk about things like, the rest of the web programming and GWT and reflection and all that kind of stuff. But I hope that that's then provided you a background to then go and investigate other stuff in Java, or as you encounter it, in your academic or professional careers. So there's things like JDBC, the Java Database Connectivity API, which lets you talk to relational databases like your Oracle, your MySQL, your Postgres, all that good stuff. there are a gazillion web frameworks out there, everything from sort of like the old school, Java server pages. You might have heard of struts, things like that. So GWT is like its own unique little world and good for a certain kind of web application. But you might encounter these other technologies out there. And there's also web services, which standard ways of doing REST. Yeah, you guys sort of do it by hand, but there are other libraries and tools out there that make it much easier to provide a REST API. And here again, with web services, it's sort of like XML on top of, or some XML or JSON or some data format on top of some standard data format on top of HTTP. And so then, because you've got that sort of like neutral communication layer, then you can talk to any client. Doesn't have to be a Java. Again, Java 8. It's got Lambda support in the language. It's got a whole bunch of APIs that have been retrofitted for Lambdas. And Lambdas are basically a very compact language syntax for expressing a function. And so you can do things like, hey, instead of having to do the whole for loop iteration over a collection, you can just say, hey, on every element of the collection, execute this function. So it's easy to, compute sums or filter out just the elements of a collection that you're looking for, things like that. And also, there's the Java community process, which is a standards body, for lack of a better term, that is all about adding features to the Java platform and through new language enhancements, through new APIs, all sorts of good stuff there. You can go check it out and sort of find out what will be coming next with Java. So, we've learned about the Java language. And Java language is kind of along the tooth. And even with some of the new Lambda stuff and everything like that, it's kind of passe. All the cool kids are doing something else. But even though the Java language, not so cool anymore, the JVM people still like a lot. Because the cool thing about JVM is that you've got that platform independence. And that you've got this, this runtime with close to 20 years of scalability improvements, of robustness, all sorts of good stuff. And so what people have done is they've implemented other languages on top of the JVM. So you've got a different language other than the Java programming language that gets compiled down to bytecode and run on top of the JVM. Some things I recommend you check out. Groovy is a language that is meant to sort of bring the ease of use of the Ruby programming language into the Java world. And so a lot of the sort of cumbersome corners of the Java programming language, a lot of the boilerplate is eliminated in Groovy. Scala is a nice language that has a nice hybrid object-oriented programming and functional programming feature set for it. So it's pretty approachable by Java developers. Again, it runs on top of the JVM. There's also an implementation of the Ruby programming language called JRuby that runs on top of Java. And then for all you Lisp fans out there, there's Clojure, which is a dialect of Lisp that runs on top of the JVM, where you can do some very powerful things. One of the things that the more functional features add is the ability to scale. Functional programming is inherently scalable because there's no mutable state. So it's not like it's much easier to parallelize things when they aren't sharing data between the threads. And so then if you want to write an application that scales up, that can take care of all of those cores and all of the hyperthreading and all that kind of stuff on your processors, functional programming languages are good for that. But that's a different class. So what's next with me? Come intern with me at Tripwire. You guys might be a little late in the program. It might be most people that are maybe in their, about to go into the 300 series or whatever. We're part of the PSEP co-op program. And so I think actually some of you are in the some of you are interning at Tripwire or have interned, I suppose. Anyway, so I'm Tripwire's representative to PSEP. And so, tell your friends, come work with me as an intern. We've had some really good luck with our interns. I really enjoy working with them, as you can imagine. And you get to play with a lot of technologies that you've seen here. Certainly Java, and then Juice and GWT. This is what we do. And it's also a great opportunity to learn from some of our more senior engineers and to teach them some of the new stuff that you guys have been learning. And so then, please feel free to send people to Warren for more information about that. We really like PSEP. I think it's a great program. I'm glad that we're doing it. Yeah.
You only take students from PSEP?
Yes, for interns. Yeah. So, but some of you are getting closer to graduating, and we're always looking for good full-time people too. And so, yeah, please, feel free to shoot me a resume if you see something, or if you're just, as you're getting closer to your job search. And actually, hey, I'd love to have you guys come work for me at Tripwire. But also, as you have questions about, wow, I'm getting ready to transition to real world. What do I need to know? Where are good places in town to work? Yeah, stuff like that. So yes, please, keep in touch. And that's it. So, thank you once again. I've really enjoyed teaching you this summer. I hope I hope we've learned a lot and had a good experience. And best of luck to everybody. I think you've all demonstrated that you can do quite a lot, and I hope that that translates into a long and enjoyable career in software engineering. So. Finally, we have the oral portion of our final exam, which will not be recorded so that people can't find out about it in the future. How do I stop recording this damn thing?
Final stop.
Is that final? Oh, that.